Hi, I'm Kerry Mussington. My age now is 52 years old. I'm doing this video to set the record straight. And I want to let people know that the word appreciation should spring to mind. What do you know about someone? How much do you care about their welfare? Are you afraid of the truth? Time will tell, right? Okay, so the truth hurts. The truth hurts. And the truth hurts some. Some people are ashamed. Some people have to deal with the shame. And some people have to learn to say, hey, the shame is not on me. What I say and what I'm about to say may trigger some people, may leave you in disbelief, or you won't believe. That's up to you. When I was a young girl, I was pretty much what we call the grooming process of how these young girls get abused, and they did call that child abuse. This was done by a man called Terry. Now, I was starting from the age of 2 upwards. This person called Terry, and he sort of had the same similar last name as myself that I come to know about. I never knew the last name. I knew the last name in my teenagers when I saw an ID card and it said his name was Terence Mussington. That's Mussingdon, I think, or EN. Oh, maybe it was a very similar name to myself, Mussington. So this person, which I've never named him before, and I am going to name him now, all because, and I'll give you the all because in a minute. I'm going to name this person because he is no longer alive. The reason why I never named or told anybody about my child abuse, only my nearest friends, is because I didn't identify it as that at such a young age. I knew something terrible was happening, and I know I was told to keep secrets, and I know that I was gifted money, chocolate, anything that I needed to keep a dirty little secret. But I didn't know I was keeping a secret. It was shh, behind closed doors. Now, this person was friended by my mother and my father, and he used to come round our house pretty much almost every day. And he would ride a bicycle, a green bicycle, to the premises of Nacton. Now, I couldn't speak when my mum and dad were alive because I knew my dad would protect me. And if he protected me and I told him what happened or what was happening, if I knew it myself, my dad would have surely committed a heinous crime and been sent to prison for protecting his daughter. Hence why I never told my father. I didn't tell my mother either until my mother approached me and asked me questions about that same said man because she'd heard something. When my mother asked me, is it true? The mind goes into survival and remember, it's already been groomed to go, shh, don't tell no one. I told my mother I believed the person who said it happened to them, but I blotted it out about me or went into detail. I said, yes, he used to do that to me. I didn't go into detail, but that was the opening up. And the first thing I done was try to protect my mother and say to my mother, it's not your fault. You didn't know. But that hurt her and it cut her up inside to know that underneath her nose, her own friend was messing with her children. Now, my dad, when he passed away, he went to his grave not knowing what his friend, which was a joint mutual friend, was doing to his children. Me, that child was me. So that was the beginning of me expressing to my parents what, my mother, should I say, because my dad passed away, what had happened to me. Now, when I told my mother, I was on my third child and I was 9 months pregnant. So you can imagine the emotions that came up. And because this is the time that it came up, is when I'm on my third pregnancy and all my hormones are all over the place, and someone's being very kind to me, and I guess I ran. That's when I started my youthful off the rails. I say I'm going off the rails a little bit, always wanting to just party and escape normal life, because normal life was very painful and full of memories for me. So I guess whole different life. But now I'm older, I'm wiser, and I can see really clear just why somebody would keep a secret like that. Now, the only reason I came out about this man is because he was found on Vernon Street. I think it's Vernon Street. It was beginning of Belson Road, in his flat, and he'd been dead for 3 months, and he was eaten by his own maggots. So that's the perpetrator. So I never really got to tell the police about the perpetrator. I never had my story told. Like many people say, get justice, get justice. There's no justice. There's no justice, because the victims at the time have to live with lots of questions, low self-esteem, erratic behavior, and not knowing who to trust anymore. So, and again, let's get to the clear detail. It affects your love lives. Anybody that's been sexually abused or abused in any shape, way, or form, it affects your future love lives. So you might find it very difficult to hold on to relationships or even be intimate. So let's think about those things for those victims out there that have suffered at the hands of abusers. The reason, like I said, as I'm doing this video, is because when you tell somebody what's happened to you, you might not go on telling everybody else what's going to happen to you, but there's the ripple effect where something has happened to you. Then throughout the rest of your life, you might have other issues that arise, even become homeless, even become caught up with the law or whatever, because you're carrying such a burden on your shoulders about what somebody has done to you. And all the outsiders, those people are supposed to love you and supposed to nurture you and supposed to be there for you. You haven't even been able to have a conversation with them. So you're still carrying all that too, that you want that. Now that this is out, I want you to understand the other side of the abuse. You see, the abuse is one thing, but the other side of the abuse in recovery is the hardest part, the recovery. And recovery is no quick fix. And when people around you start to shun away from you because they don't understand or want to talk about your behavior, or your behavior has changed, perhaps. Now, I changed my behavior for the better, which means I keep my head clean. I don't get into confrontation. I've set boundaries for myself and set boundaries for other people. So the fact that I've learned to put boundaries in place to manage my emotions and manage my daily life, which is something we have to do because we're dealing with triggers, we're dealing with flashbacks, we're dealing with somebody having a request on your life, And maybe you might find it difficult to say, no, not today, I don't feel like it, I don't want to. You see, people pleasing. We've done a lot of that people pleasing our whole entire life, where it stripped me from my character, who I was, who do I identify as, who am I? I was a lost soul, but I found myself, and I got up, and I put myself on a courses to better my life and to understand behavior problems. I wanted to reach out to people that may have gone for abuse, may have inherited the behavior that comes with that, self-sabotage, depression, anxiety, self-mutilation, all of those things that come with hurting oneself. That had to stop, because what we're doing was we're blaming ourselves for something that somebody else has done to us, or somebody else is trying to control and manipulate. Power and control, that's what it is with these abusers, with these people, the manipulators. Power and control. And they've got sly ways of trying to get what they want, manipulate somebody into submission. Now it's time, and it's time to tell the truth. If my own family can ostracize me and tell me and call me a narcissist because I speak truth, my truth, this is what other people are going through out there, being name called on top of the names that they've already got, because there's no level of understanding. Now, when you can't speak to people that need to know something, this is the best way I can express. I don't have to hold it inside like I have done as a little girl, which caused enough detriment even to the point of suicide. I don't have to hold it in anymore. It's not my shame, it's my story. And if anybody has been a part of my story and only knows so much, let me fulfill them with the rest. Shame. They say shame. It's shame. You brought shame to the family, telling everybody what happened to you. They're going to think it's your father that's done it. Well, let me reassure you, I have done a video and said it was a non-family member. Now, my father, as a rebel as he was, never, ever touched us children in any shape, way, or form, in a sexual manner, or did anything to us in that manner, shape, or form. He is an innocent man. He did not do that. Like I said, I named the perpetrator Terence, also known as Terry, also known as Monkey Man, the little man on the bike. Now, that little man touched a few of my friends too. I won't name them, but they know, I know. So he was a perpetrator, but he didn't just perpetrate on his friend's child. He perpetrated on my friends, because we used to talk about it. And the only thing I could do was spit in that man's teeth, because I was forced to make a cup of tea, 3 sugars, carnation milk, and leave the tea bag in strong. And as a way of getting my revenge back, I used to spit in his teeth, because I knew what he was doing to me was very uncomfortable. Completely uncomfortable. Then my behavior started to show in school, where I tried to commit suicide. And I won't ever share the method and how, because I don't want to enable somebody else to put that in their minds in a weak moment and go and do it. But I remember the teachers taking me to hospital, and I remember my parents visiting me in hospital, and I still didn't tell them what was happening to me. I still didn't tell them about their friend touching me. constantly. They had no idea. And that pattern went on, where then I started becoming a young girl, went out, drunk, went into the world of alcohol and men, which was the F4 space at the time, where it was party life. So I just wanted to be a part of the party life. So the party life was, again, military men. Let's talk about the military men now. Maybe we should do that in another chapter. In fact, we can do that in another chapter. But the military men, when, I don't know if you heard the term jail bait, that means you are underage. And if you are underage, that those military men were not supposed to touch you or go near you. But they did. As a young child that was never really settled at home and was in care homes, also sometimes children's homes, that's right, a child's home. That was a bit of a relief coming away from the perpetrator and being in a child's home. But even being in that children's home, that perpetrator was still meeting me, still paying me, still telling me to keep a secret. Now I knew how to manipulate him back now. Now I'm a teenager, but I'm in a children's home, and now it's fight or flight, because now I'm dealing with teenagers that are coming from the same thing, coming from somewhere where there may be physical abuse or some abuse or something that's happened, or they're ripped away from their parents, or they put themselves in the children's homes. Now I'm in the child's home now, and I'm fighting other children because they're stealing from me, because they're doing this, and I'm also a young girl, and I'm having sex. No guidance, no nothing, but people just seem to be using my body. That's right. And I got pregnant. Well, I think I was pregnant, and I had a miscarriage. Some blob that I see in the toilet, big enough to make me question it, big enough and the pain. And me and those girls that I used to hang around with and the other people were trying to get pregnant, you know, and we would go down the family planning place to go and get the pregnancy kits and stuff like that, because we just wanted a baby. We wanted somebody to love us, because we were unloved children. Boy, I often talk about it with the person that I see to this day. Boy, we could have a child together. Thank God we didn't. We've just been terrible children having children. But getting back to the perpetrator now. He continued to be in my life until I was about 16 years old. And that's where I left the home. And in leaving the home, completely leaving the home, it was now survival. I am now on my own. How do I feed myself? How do I get money? How do I survive? How do I have fun? I don't know. I don't know anything about life, but I'm out there in this world, and this perpetrator, this man is still out there. I'll try and avoid him though, yeah? I will try and avoid him. I try to avoid him. Go to the other side of the world to avoid him. So here I am in B&Bs now, a young girl that school's finished. I'm no longer in the children's home because I decided to go back home for some unruly reason. Had an argument with my mother and left home again within about a week. Sofa surfing until I could find a shared accommodation. So I ended up in a B&B first of all, Lilac Guest House on London Road. Yes, that's where the Steve guy who committed the heinous sins of murders on those prostitutes, those women, he lived on the same road. So there I am in this road, being introduced to lots of young girls, lots of people that also have left home, and I'm introduced to this world of girls that are telling me that they're prostituting themselves. Did I consider it? And I asked questions about it, but I heard the horror stories about it and how they would be raped over and over again and their body just taken for granted, hit, beaten, and I didn't want that for me. So I never went into the world of prostitution, ever, ever, although it was a thought. But I heard so many horror stories about that world. And I look at the world of these women that have been doing this, and it starts from violation. They were perhaps violated as a child, and now have realized that a body is just a body, but it's the mind that gets abused. And if we can take that mind and control it and look at the body as nothing, then we can do anything. You learn to disassociate with what's happening to get your needs met or to satisfy somebody else's needs. And this is the thing, isn't it? There's many people that sleep with people, and this goes on in real life. Many people sleep with people. They don't even really like them. So what are you doing? Disassociation just to get through the job. Get it now? Do you understand now? Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to make this one briefly short because there's a lot of topics that I want to talk about, a lot of places that I want to talk about, and how social services don't pick up on the children that are abused. The school, they didn't really pick it up. The behavior was there. My friends, they couldn't say anything because it was happening to some of them as well, you know. So we kind of, as children, you form the children conversation, which you would kind of do in an adult's world as well, but you have your private conversations with your friends. Your friends tell you what's happening in their lives, you tell them what's happening in theirs, but you have nowhere to talk to because you know neither of you are going to go and confide with your parents. So you just, I don't know, go and play, as they say, go play, do the distraction technique. You're getting on my nerves, go play. Everything was a go play, just rather than a conversation. So I think for me, it's time to tell the truth, and I know the truth hurts, but who do you appreciate for the understanding? And it's funny that the most people that I appreciate is those that can say, yeah, I understand. Thanks for sharing. Or prompt more questions. How did you survive? I mean, what did you do? How can I keep my children safe? What are the telltale signs, in future? Can how do you educate back to those people that you tell? Don't just reel off. Yeah, it happened to me. There's the signs. So when I came into business now, my business was about teaching people the signs, the awareness, and even where it comes from. Again, I don't know nothing. I've asked many questions about this man. I asked my mum's best friend, said, hey, you know that man, Terence Massington or Massington or whatever his last name was. I said, where did he come from? How come he was at my mum and dad's house every single day, every single week? They would cook for him. My mum would cook for him and leave his dinner there. It would come from Cranes. He used to work at Cranes in Ipswich on Nacton Road. That's right. Cranes in Ipswich on Nacton Road. Now, he didn't live with my mum and dad, but he would always pop up. He started off on Surrey Road or Dilwyn Street or Elliot Street, but he ended up in Cemetery Road. And then he moved to the bottom of Belstead Road, opposite the church. I asked who was this man, and no one seems to know. But when I asked my mum's best friend, I said, why did he give my mum money? Why was he giving my mum money each week? Because I remember he used to put his wages there. Mum used to do his dinner, so I think it was just because she used to feed him, and that was the money for the groceries for his dinner. But no, it turns out that this man loved my mother. So apparently he loved my mother so much that he would do this, and it became some kind of an arrangement back in those old days, where he would provide the food, the money for the food. She'd cook for the family, because times were tough, even getting a can of baked beans. So I guess that's the way that he kept her sweet, kept the family sweet. while he sweetened himself with this child. You see, it's out there now, isn't it? And what happens is, why I'm addressing this is because somebody sent a text message to a family member stating that, I'm going to read it. This is the text message that I recently received, which made me think, do I talk on this, or do I just leave it? You know, because I shouldn't have to regurgitate this. And I thought, I'm in control. I teach people about their mental health and how to be in control and don't let the past affect your future. I teach against domestic abuse, also as a freedom program facilitator. See, I'm not just a victim, or wasn't, in order to explain, I use the word victim. I'm no longer, a victim. I'm a survivor. And people don't even like that. They can try and turn the terms or terminology around each time. But how do you say, hey, I'm in control of my life? Hey, I'm in control of my life. I've raised 3 children. I'm on grandchildren. I've got myself qualifications. I've put myself through higher education. I've got my certificates. I think as a high level as you could possibly get to saving life. I've saved life, so I know what I'm talking about. I've helped people with their housing. I've put my neck on the line over and over again for somebody else's child. And you don't understand. It doesn't matter if you're 50, 60, 70, you are still someone's child. And that someone's child at those ages are still going through the battles of trauma, having to try and find out why they're the way they are, or get rid of the patterns of behavior that is affecting them, or maybe the circle of people that's affecting their lives. Because believe me, you can bond with other people that has been through trauma, and you'll find that's a lot of people. And there's no quick fix. So don't just tell people to get over it. It don't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You'll find that some of these people slip, their drinking problems, their drug problems, they've let themselves go, they've maybe bigger, they may be smaller, there's ways of self-sabotaging, and they don't even know it's called self-sabotaging. That means you're letting yourself go, not thinking about yourself and not caring about yourself. The I don't care about yourself mode. There's so many people that go through that. And when you're faced with people that disapprove of your life or disapprove of your words, you're then battling that rejection. You're battling, oh, I never wanted to make them angry at me or hate me. I just wanted to be loved and understood. And many people that say they want to be loved, they want to be understood, they want people to understand what they went through. Maybe not the heinous crimes, but really how they manage this, that trauma, that violation. They want you to understand that, darling, I'm okay today, but tomorrow I might fall. But what I need from you is to understand why I might have fell. And that maybe I'm challenged for the day because somebody has been mean to me, and it's triggering off the ripple effects of, see what I mean? Every time I try and grow, somebody tries to stomp on my head. And it's just, when people say they take 2 steps forward and then they take a step back, that's because the obstacle, and more or less a person in front of them has said something that doesn't sit well. And then they've got to go back and reflect on, how do I handle this? What someone's opinion is of me or my choices. How do I handle that? So there's many people that have lost brothers and sisters out there, but I want you to understand that brothers and sisters is not by blood. Brothers and sisters are by the people that support you. So you have gained who you can count on, who will understand that I'm sorry you went through the trauma. Let's not that come between me and you. Let's find a way forward and celebrate life and look at the happy times. Let's remove the blame. Okay? And that's the problem with people. They're not accountable. They don't want to be accountable for their part that they play on another human being's life by not giving someone time to talk, by asserting their authority. So, text message I read out was, you're just, I have to be careful what I say here. Basically, your mum is cheap and everybody's had a go. And the Mussingtons are a joke. That's one. And the last bit is, didn't your mum get raped by your granddad? Now, that was sent to my child, okay? So granddad meaning my dad. So did I get raped by my dad? The answer is that never happened. I got, if you call it rape, I use the terminology child abuse, but it is what it is, isn't it? It's actually rape, isn't it? Did I get that from Terence, also known as Terry? Yes, I did. Mussington. That was his last name, something like that. Cranes will know. Somebody who worked at Cranes will know his last name fully, because they would have known. They would have spoken to them. They would have seen his badge, and they would know. So anyone that worked at Cranes, I'm sure I will hear of what that last man's last name was. But no, it wasn't my father, and that's what I want to put straight, because I have been approached by saying, can you not tell everybody that it wasn't my father, that your father, because it's embarrassing. Embarrassing for who? For who? Why has it got to be embarrassing when it didn't happen to them? What, you don't want to tarnish the family's reputation? That's been tarnished. Reputation is the ones that are standing still, not the ones that are past, the ones that are here now. What's your reputation like? What's your reputation like? What's your reputation like? Well, I had a shit reputation, and I have tried to correct that reputation. That's right. I went on a crap reputation because I was off the rails, hiding and harboring dirty little secrets. We know now. So now we know what it is. We know why it is. We avoid going off the rails. We avoid being in trouble with the police. We avoid people's behavior that is harmful, and one of which I call power and control, with comments or actions that are going to harm another person. So I take back the power and I take back the control to tell everybody that, hey, this is my story. I might not have a Bible, but this is my part in the Bible. It happened to me. But now I teach against it, and how you can protect your children, and what you can do to better relationships with your friends and your family. So stop ostracizing them and letting the perpetrators strip you from what it intended to do in the first place, rip your family apart. That's what evilness does to you. It rips anything good that you have in your life. It tries to take anything good that you have in your life away. And those committing heinous crimes and are evil by sending messages like that to my family, saying that like I said, using the terminology of rape. Who does that? When a woman does that and uses so flippant, yeah, raped, that is just disgusting and inconsiderate and very delicate to put out false allegations against my family. False. It's slander and libel and defamation of character. Now, my father is not here to defend himself, so I'm going to defend for him. But I'm not defending for him to say he was a good to shoes, because he wasn't. Because he wasn't. But if he knew that I understand his journey, his pain, his past, I understand that he also was never sat down, like many of the people are not sat down and are not educated by their own parents. Because for some reason or another, their parents and the cycle of abuse continues and continues and continues and continues until someone recognizes that abuse is not warranted, is not healthy, it's unacceptable. I guess that's me. I can now say I can break that cycle of abuse, for I identify what abuse is and how it can come in the shapes of text messages, how it can come in the shapes of people disagreeing with you and blackmailing you and telling you that, and calling you names and telling you that you should take down and remove a video of you talking about your abuse. I should never remove a video of me talking about honesty and something that's so difficult to express or explain when it comes to rape of a child, because that's what I was, a child. When it comes to rape as a teenager, because that's what I was, a teenager. And if I decided to speak out against it, about it, you should be proud. Because if this message hits anyone's sons or daughters, somebody surely is going to get the awareness and save and protect their own children. They're going to look out for signs. They're going to monitor behavior. They're going to check their friends. They're not maybe taking their friends for granted that their friends are safe. They're going to look at the behavior, and so what if you're judged on that? For the love of a child, no secrets between you when it comes to protecting one another's families. Now, I've got grandchildren, and I'm going to protect them in every shape, way, or form that I can, and I'll speak to the mothers openly and honestly about, hey, as a child, this happened to me, and I never want it to happen to any of my children or anybody, anyone that I love, anyone. So please, I know this is painful for you to hear, but I want to tell you that please be mindful when dating, be mindful when doing all of these things in your lives or whatever else. This is who I am. I'm an educator. Do your research on the background that you bring into your home. In fact, leave your children out of your dating experiences for quite a while until you get to know the background of that person or people that you're dating. What's wrong with that? I could never have done this years ago. Never would have given that advice years ago because I never talked about my abuse. So what could I offer? From my experience, what can I offer somebody else to save their life? Because it is about saving life. Just because I'm giving you the information, yes, it will save a life. You'll be, how can you save a life? Very easy. Maybe somebody else who it happened to will speak up on this also and say, no, it happened to me, and no, I don't have to keep a secret, and no, I don't have to train my mind to keep living on that perpetrator every time I'm in bed with my partner or something like that. And that's another thing, isn't it? Flashbacks. So we had to learn. A lot of us learn to disassociate. But we want to be in this world and present in this world and aware of our surroundings and the people's behavior around us. And if it's toxic, if it's negative, it's not for me. You can stay away from me. I will never be blackmailed by any blood, any non-blood, any organization, any body, ever, ever again. And I will always stand against blackmail. But if you want to reach a level of understanding, you mean what you want to say is, hey, this is too painful for me to hear. Please don't bring it up again. Can we talk about something else, present rather than future? What's wrong with things like that? Rather than sending people names and saying you're a narcissist or this, like that. There's no point in sending names. You're not interested in watching videos about the person that's actually expressing and say, hey, look at me, you know, I'm doing something. I'm educating people. Being in control and being in time. I've lost too much time over the years being groomed by people to have it their way. So I think when I found myself, which was about 9 years ago now, and I recognized, and that's the first time I came out about my abuse. And let me put that here. Like I said, I did the video. I said it happened to me. I said non-family member, meaning it wasn't my mum, it wasn't my dad, it wasn't anyone that I know to be actually my family, but this man, just because he had a similar back name, apparently I don't know who he was, but no one can say that he was an uncle because he wasn't an uncle. He wasn't called an uncle. So, for me, I wonder what happened to my perpetrator in his past for him to do things like that. That's the story I want to know. I would like to know his background. You see, his background. And back in those days, in the 70s, there was a lot of survival going on and a lot of people living in a lot of people's houses because the rent, to meet the rent, to pay for food. And so there was a lot of people that gave up their children. A lot of children went into foster care. A lot of people's children were adopted because they were different colors. They were mixed races as well. So again, black and white, you know. There's a lot of things that went on in the past where people just didn't speak about these things. And if there was any kind of mental health going on, any breakdown, the women mostly were put into an institution, okay? So they couldn't speak on what was happening to them. So they were the majority of the 70s women, 60s, or let's go back, were actually victims of a grooming process that society said so. Women seen and not heard, and you just have to put up with the abuse. Women have a voice to this day now, and now they can say and stand up against abuse. And I think this is what's happening now. Since social media, there are a lot of people that have come out about their abuse. They've taken a brave step. They've seen one person do it, so they thought they're going to be brave and do it. But some people don't think about the consequences of their family, and maybe they do. But then maybe they say, hey, this is my life. This happened to me. So when they do out it, congratulations, that's the first step to freedom. Now free the rest of your mind, you understand, and get your life back. Get it back. Get it better. Let somebody's paving the way for somebody by these messages. Now, if you don't believe in God, that's up to you. It's entirely up to you where you are spiritually in this conversation. That's entirely up to you. But I believe, and somebody once said to me, stop harping in the past. God's already taken care of it. That was for me because my perpetrator is dead now. So I'm happy. But faith does play a big part of me getting up and really analyzing life and what it's about. And I look at the good and evil in life, good and evil. And if people are doing evil stuff, evil, harmful stuff, and the judgment too, the judgment. If they give you the silent treatment, it's because it's their way or no way. And that's fine. That means they've set boundaries. And that's okay too. So how do we deal with rejection? Rejection of those ones, once you've told somebody about your your abuse and things that's happened to you, how then do you deal with the rejection? And you don't have to deal with it. You just carry on, love. If they want no part of your development and who you are today, that's okay too. Because secretly, we don't know everything about our families' lives either behind closed doors. We don't. It's one-sided. When a victim comes out, it's all about them, right? So we don't, the rest of the family's lives are just, you don't know what's going on with them. So for me, the focus is on each other and your own families. So focus on yourself, focus on your family. And I guess people do that themselves. And what does family mean to you? Family means to me those that I have a conversation with on a regular basis, those that check in on me on a regular basis, those that help me and understand that maybe, hey, one day I might be short of bread and butter, but did you know that as a family? What do you know about those that you're supposed to love? Because if you are true to being open and honest about life, give someone time to talk, then you will remove the judgment and appreciate today. Hi, bye. But honestly, control, power and control. I've learned all about that circle of abuse. If you don't believe me, look it up. Use your search engine and put in power and control. You might say that I meet some of that criteria. Let's have a look. Do I meet some of that criteria? Back in the past, I could have done. Absolutely. Power and control. All right. When people go off the rails, eh? Using coercive and threats. That one, coercive control. That word people like, what is that? Blackmail then. Let's use blackmail. Let's use making or carrying out threats to do something to hurt or threaten to leave or to commit suicide or to report to the welfare or making someone drop charges or making someone do illegal things. So let's go back to, hang on a minute, making someone drop charges. So basically, here's an allegation. Hey, it happened to me. I was abused as a child, or I was raped, or I was child abused, however you want to put terminology. But when you've got people blackmailing you and saying, hey, shh, don't say nothing. You might bring the family in disrepute. That's coercive control. You've actually put a little seed of doubt into the mind of somebody else and saying to that person, take it back, in other words, shut it down. Don't let it come out because this is going to be the consequences if it does. And that's the part about coercive control. And you don't even know that you're doing it. So when you're telling someone, can you stop talking about it, this, that, and the other, go away, retract it, somebody else might know about it. You're actually, you're putting your fears and concerns about everybody else rather than the person that just told you about what happened to them. Speak to that person that just told you that they were abused and ask that person or empathize with that person. But you'll find that some people don't empathize, they just want to run away from the truth because the truth hurts. Hurts who? It hurts the people that are supposed to love you, supposed to be there for you. It hurts all of you because what this does, fear does, it divides. And I always say fear is of the enemy and love conquers. Do you understand? It hate. Love can kill hate in an instant if you know how to love properly and if you know how to love without the judgment and you give somebody time to talk. It can kill all of that hatred because it's just misunderstanding, isn't it? Using children for intimidation is another one. Using emotional abuse, putting people down, making them feel bad about herself or him, calling them names, making them think they're going crazy, playing mind games, humiliating in public. Was that, when I talked about the text message earlier, that was meant to humiliate my family and me. Except for I'm not humiliated. What that done is it showed me that somebody is after power and control and will do everything in their power to humiliate, degrade, belittle my family. And as an advocate for the community, I find it very difficult to just sit back and say nothing. And in my mind, I'll be worried about what other people think and say, but I have to do what's right by me. I will leave this here to say that if it ever happened to you, time is very, very precious. And I hope that you do for yourself if you've been a victim, and you be kind to yourself and you appreciate your life and don't harm yourself because of other people. And if it didn't ever happen to you, but you know it might have happened to a family or friend or something like that, or you've heard about things like this, I want you to stop, and I want you to understand that that's just one cycle. The weight is horrendous. What all you can do is replace negative energy, negative thinking with positive outcomes and positive doings. So if you've got positive solutions for your friends and family, say, as a distraction technique, yeah, talk about it, but plan something fun to replace that negative memory. This is fun for me doing this recording today, and I'm sitting here thinking, oh, what will my family think? Oh, what will my friends think? My friends that really know me know that I advocate for the community, know that I speak and I do lives. I've done lives videos, I've done interviews. I've been doing this for quite a few years now. I don't name and shame people generally when I'm talking. I talk about a situation, but in this case, I have named. It is not where I'm trying to shame, because there's no shame. He's not here to be shamed anymore. He's dead. I have named my perpetrator for the very first time. This is 2023, and I am 52, and therefore this is the first time in all those years since I was a little girl from the age of 2 that I can say, I forgive you, Terry. I forgive you because I forgive me, and you have no weight on my mind anymore. I forgive you. I forgive you. Because I just wonder, when somebody go back and we look at age and we look at time that's gone by, it's a long time to carry hate and harbour someone's head, name, energy in their mind. I forgive my past. I don't blame any of my parents. I don't blame my parents. We can all do the blame game, can't we? If we look, we'd like to say we could correct it. If we could have shown them the way to correct it with what we know now, we would have done that. But we haven't done that, right? So we haven't had the opportunity to do that. So my mum and dad ain't alive. I did tell my mum. I didn't tell my dad. Told you why I didn't tell my dad. I told my mum only after my dad passed. Therefore, I knew there wouldn't be any physical violence. Although I told my mum also when the man had died. I didn't tell her when the man was alive. Also because I wanted to protect my family, so they wouldn't go to jail over protecting me over the perpetrator. And you get it? You get it? This is why people don't tell. Don't tell the family, because they don't want the family to go to jail, because that's all they've got, you know? Little bits of them, you know? Little bits of their family. So I feel that I'm good with it. Anybody who isn't, that's okay. It didn't happen to them. I'm the one that had to deal with it. And I'm good. Family to me is those that are willing to give time. Family to me is those that don't blackmail me. Family to me is me, myself, and I. I'm my own family. I turn to myself. when there's a problem. I get up in the morning and I feed myself when there's a problem. When I feed myself, I can feed others. I can take care of myself first. I can take care of others. And yes, I've got family, other immediate family. Of course, I love them. So I'm going to protect them, and I'm going to try and do everything in my power to make sure that the awareness is there for, like I said, when we are in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or go way back, children were seen and not heard, so they didn't get the education. Not even menopause was talked about, do you understand? Not even sex, not your first boyfriend, none of that was talked about. So life has changed in 2023. It seems to be okay to be open about the things that have happened to people in the past. I only mentioned the man's name because he's no longer here. And I only mentioned the man's name because I wanted to clear my dad's name. And I wanted to put my own family's mind at rest, that it wasn't my dad. Okay? Now, where this individual got this information from was the social services. Social services, and I have the evidence to prove that, social services, upon interviewing me one day, asked me about my abuse. I told them who it was. I said, and I named that the name was Terry, but social services writ down my dad. Now, I didn't know this until my son approached me and said, "Hey, Mum, is it true about Granddad?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" "Well, I've got a letter here." I said, "What letter?" "Hold on a minute, I've got one here too. Let me open it." "So I'll call you back." I read the letter, and it named my granddad as my dad as a perpetrator, and I was fuming. One, you have just told my son something about my abuse, which you had no right to, but you've actually given the wrong bloody name. Now, the ex-girlfriend at the time had got wind of that and decided to blab that all around the town. And I had to call the social services back out to have a meeting with me and call the manager to have a meeting with me in relation to the letter that had been sent out. Now, the social services, I'm sorry we got it wrong. We can only apologise. Yes, we shouldn't have done that. We shouldn't have sent the letter out. We shouldn't have done that. Will you accept our apology? And I've got that in writing. I said, no. You've done so much damage, tarnishing my father's name, and you got it wrong. So for me, I had to politically put this correct today and say to you, I have the evidence, all the evidence in the world. Everybody likes that, don't they? They like proof. They like the proof. Give me the proof. Give me the proof. Give me the proof. I have the proof. Okay, that the social services politically got it wrong. But most of all, this is my voice. My dad didn't do that to me. Okay, he didn't do that to me. I named my perpetrator as Terry, and I leave that as that, Terence Massington. And on that note, gonna go now because the storm is coming, but I'm gonna learn to dance in that. End of story. Yeah.